Excited about that vision. Man, a lot of good things happen.
Do you know why, Hartsey? Because it's about as fucking casual as it gets.
Hextall stops it. Look out. Down the ice. Will it make it?
It's got a chance.
He's got it.
Big people in runners. Dies it in and James. Center. The goal. The rubber. He scores!
Carry on by Claude Giroux. Giroux holding. Gets around in front. Goal!
He's the most famous thing in the world.
How the heck did it ever get to this scale?
Very own national phenomenon.
Let's go.
There we are. We are live. The Tendies on Pattison. New intro video. We'll see if Facebook agrees or disagrees.
Wait a minute. It's meta.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll see if Meta and barbecue sauce agree. I'm not sure if you saw the big meme, but apparently when he had his video, there was like a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's up on his bookshelf. So,
Fuck Meta, fuck Facebook.
Well, the whole virtual reality world thing is, I don't like people in the real world. You think I'm going to like people in a virtual reality world?
Yeah, fuck, humans suck.
yeah, pretty much.
I can't even disagree with you.
So here we are. It's been a week and a day since we were back on. I don't know how long it's been since Chris has been with us.
3 weeks. This is
3
my
weeks.
this is my season debut. I feel like Sidney Crosby.
So it is our first full roster. A lot to talk about. West Coast trip started with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yesterday was like a rough morning because, like, watching that game, like that third period, it almost seemed like a playoff game. Like just the intensity and everything of it, and every time that at the end of the game when they were trying to shoot the puck and they just kept icing it, and then TK being almost offsides, I was like, I can't take this. And then I didn't fall asleep till like 2:00 in the morning. I was dead yesterday. So, and yeah, I missed that. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I missed the intensity, the being excited for Flyers hockey.
I also think last season it was tough for players to be this intense. It was a condensed season, a lot of just like
empty buildings. It's so
empty buildings.
It's so hard to create your own not motivation but intensity.
Juice.
Yeah. Like we're all human beings. We feed off of that.
Right. You know, they actually brought that up. Duncan Keith plays for
Edmonton,
and they brought it up because Duncan Keith didn't see his kid last season. He played hockey, and they brought that up, and that's what people forget to realize is like how rough the 2021 season was on people. Like, it really was rough on human beings. You know, like the stuff that we we touched.
They're robots, Chris.
They get paid.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're $1 million robots.
So the beginning of this trip had them face off against Edmonton, who came into the game undefeated. So it comes in undefeated, and I'll tell you, like, while the Flyers played well, man, that's a team that just from top to bottom plays with speed. They really they force a game that not everybody can play against.
You said it. You said it in the text message. Connor McDavid is an odd man rush.
Yeah,
like, he's ridiculous. It's not fair.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to agree with Ryan Whitney. He's the best player. Period. It's not even close. He will probably get 150 points this year. Like, he's filthy.
Well, he's that good. His hands are that good, and he does it at a speed that we've just never seen.
And
we've never seen.
He wants to score every single shift.
But the Flyers come out with a win against a very hungry, a very fast team.
Yeah,
he's right.
They came out. They scored first. They scored first, and G with another goal. My man's on a point per game pace here, a little more than. And they're those top two lines are clicking. It's good to see it. Like they kept pushing. Yeah, the second periods have lacked a lot. We'll get into that, but they're starting games and they're finishing games. They just have to get that Oreo filling. They have to master that.
They have to play the middle of the game.
Yeah, the recipes the recipe's off. They're getting cake batter, but it's not cake batter. It's supposed to be there.
Their second periods have been a little rough, but hey, listen, I'd rather it be the second period than the third period.
Yeah, and
yeah, for sure.
And the other thing is, their penalty kill is doing really well. They had an odd objective in the first period in Edmonton. It was to take a lot of penalties and see if Edmonton can just put us in the ground now. Even though that first Converse the line was weak as shit, but they did the job. They gave up the one power play goal and the fluky bounce off of Braun's skate. But like they did the job. They at the end of the game, when TK took that penalty when he was shadowing McDavid, like any other season, especially last year. I mean, that's a tie game, and then the Oilers win it before overtime, and the Flyers don't even get a point. It's just good to see that they can withstand that, and even last night, Vancouver. I know we haven't jumped. I'm jumping ahead, but they killed off 2 power plays in the third period. It was just good to see.
Yeah, and it's crazy that Braun's a +7. That's just because I've been killing Braun since last season, and he's
Justin Norris.
I just find it amazing that the guy that I've been killing since the beginning of the season, not only does he score in the text message thread, but he's a +7 on the season, which is that's why it's a big reason why they're 4-2.
It's early, so some of those guys who are a little older, right? Like they still have fresh legs. You might not want Braun as we get in the middle and late season to be getting top pairing minutes. But right now, with Ellis being a little banged up, you just hope this isn't something that lingers all year. Because you don't want, as the season goes on, to Braun to be getting this level of minutes.
I don't want him in the lineup tomorrow. Let him rest till we get home. What's like, they've proven they have the ability to win without him. I do want to note the fact that we did just televise a Bissell commercial that had the dog, pissing on the floor. That was pretty sweet.
Get that rug shampoo, Bissell Spot Bot. Shout out Bissell.
Yep. That was the Flyers pissing on last season.
Just to comment on Frankie here, whenever you have your top, like this was what was missing last year, where your top players getting points. You are JVR, who had a good year, can't be this team's leading scorer. They're not built for him to be their leading scorer. And right now, with the top line playing well, with the Fab line, I guess that's what we're going with that line, notching points with Atkinson. I mean, he didn't score last night. He's terrible now. But with Atkinson scoring in that line, Farabee just looks like a young stud, like just a pure stallion. When you get that out of your top 6, it takes the pressure off your bottom 6. They can be a little bit more rugged, like Lindblom has kind of returned the form, and you're not asking for a tall order from Lotz,
Yeah, it's in order for them to win consistently and against the good teams, they got to be balanced. And they can't be Boston, they can't be Colorado. I mean, they don't have that top line, but it's almost a good thing. But they need everyone clicking. And, obviously there's going to be down points in the season. There's going to be points where they struggle to score. It was clear last night they ran out of gas in the second period, and because
it's tough though, back to back, and you had such a fast-paced game the night before.
Yeah, so they had to empty the tanks in Edmonton. So, but then the third period, they didn't give up a lot. They made it an even period. and that was even with Vancouver getting, what I say, 2 or 3 power plays. And they had the Flyers had a couple chances to go up by 2. So it's not like they sat back; they pushed forward. Although the one time I wanted to, throw my remote to the TV at JVR when I think it was Lawton fed him a pass right underneath the stick, and he's standing all alone in between the hash, and he's like, "I'm giving it back to Lawton, who has a guy on him, and we're not going to get a shot in a sweet 3-on-2 rush. That Lawton just made a sweet pass." But hey, he scored. Of course, any of the 3 of us could have scored that goal. But that's his job. That's what he does, and I'd like to see it, man. It's like everything so far. It's 6 games, but so far, everything that we wanted to see worked on and fixed, they have. The goaltending's improved. Yes, Carter Hart's has let up a couple softies. I mean, the why am I spacing? The Tyson Barrie goal wasn't the first goal in Edmonton. I don't classify that as soft. I don't classify it as weak. I just classify it as he's playing the way goalies are taught to play, and he just didn't score himself up. It's not like it was Atkinson's goal, the game winner, which was atrocious. Like goaltending actually won us the game in Edmonton because Hart shut her down after that goal early in the second, and
It's the last
Koskinen.
episode, Frank. I forgot Frank is on behind me.
So it's like they won that game because of goaltending, and they won last night because of goaltending. I mean, Halak didn't play bad or anything, but Jones played really well, and that was a good road win, back to back win, back to back night win. That was just a good win.
That game, when you look at the analytics, it was pretty right. You had basically the same amount of shots, basically the same amount of high danger chances, basically the same amount of expected goals. Like Jones was the difference. And not that, as you said, not that Halak let in anything soft. He just let in 2.
Yeah, and yeah.
I was just saying, like these first couple games, they remind me of when they came out of the pandemic, like the 2020 when they got the number 1 seed and they ended up losing to the Islanders. It almost reminds like how they came out of that. Like
they went into that pause the hottest team in hockey.
They went in, but they didn't. Like that's what I mean. Is like they went in and they came out, so everything was good. So that's kind of what it reminds me of.
I mean, they're playing the same type of game that they played then, and it means that much more the fact you're doing it without Hayes and Ellis, at least Ellis the last 2 games. That means an awful lot, and the fact that Braun is capable of stepping up in the short term, and a guy like Sealer you can plug in, and he isn't killing you back there. I mean, there's obviously a couple moments where there's some moments, but you're gonna have that with a young D. So it's really good to see the depth come up. Guys step in, and they're a good start. They're fun to watch.
Well, yeah, you have a high scoring game one night and then a low scoring game another night, and you come out with a W both, right? Like you want to be able to win situations. And I think that when you watch this team versus last year's team is they don't get beat. They're not getting beat to every single puck, and they're not losing 80% of battles, and last year's team just seemed to be outmatched in so many ways. And I don't know if, like obviously there's been a new identity and new players and new accountability, but the reality is like you didn't overhaul 90% of your team. You overhauled a couple big names, but they just didn't have that battle in the same way.
Culture. They changed the culture, and that's huge. Like for anyone that's been part of team sports, like culture is a big thing, and it's like you hear guys say it after games and all that stuff, but it really does mean something. It means an awful lot because when you have 2 teams that are equal, but one has a bad culture or losing culture, then they're not going to succeed in the end. That's short-term success, and the Flyers hopefully this continues. I mean, it's easy to have good culture when you're winning, but it didn't. It just seems like they're tight like they were, at the end of 1920, heading into the pause. They're just playing like that, and it's good to see a guy like Patrick Brown and McEwen. Like I like him. Like he's got the flow, which is nice. Got to have some damn flow.
Serious salad.
Yep.
Serious salad.
And
from
he doesn't
McEwen.
care about grabbing guys' visors and trying to pound them into submission. But
I do like Seller.
yes, yeah, he's been good, and he's brought something they had nothing of last year, and they have some edge, they have some bite, and that's something they didn't have last year at all.
I don't know that they've really had it since Wayne left.
You're right. You look at Seller as a guy in the minors who was coming in, and you look at what he did in his first game with the tickets that I went when I went to the Kraken. He literally threw the ref out of the way. He lost the fight, but just the intensity was like
It doesn't matter. It's about accountability.
No, I know. And then you figure the Nate Thompson, the guy cheap shot at Claude Drew, and then Nate Thompson just absolutely butchered him. And I think that fight should have stopped like 30 seconds earlier. And the ref's like, he said something about his mom because he kept going on and on and on. And the guy had no shot. Like, it was just, but like you said, like there's the intensity, there's the fighting, they're sticking up for each other. So, and that was missing last year.
Well, when Lindblom, who was not in great health last year, was your person that stuck up when they were kind of getting shellacked, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's good for Lindblom, but let's look for, and who's still putting weight back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they get Calgary next, who was on fire.
Yeah, literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that. We can't get Arizona. Like we got to get Calgary.
Oh, damn, they suck. Holy shit. They're
terrible.
So brutal. So brutal. But yeah, I mean, Calgary's doing really well. I mean, they're, we talked about, we're unsure of where, certain teams were in no man's land, and Calgary was definitely one of them, where it was like a major put up or shut up year. And, right now they're putting up. I mean, that goal that Gaudreau scored last night was disgusting, where did you guys see it at all?
No.
So he was not seen the highlights.
The Penguins went point to point, and Gaudreau his defenseman was right in front of him in the middle of the ice, and he poked the puck over the defenseman's stick, and then went down on a rush, and then just floated it right over the glove bar, like not even bar down, but knob piece down. It was
I just saw it. It was really bad.
Yeah, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. And you're getting that in Markstrom. If you watch the highlights, like I was watching some of that game before the Flyers game, he made like 5 incredible saves. Like he's playing so good. And
he's got three Penguins on him, and he made a save as the Calgary Flames are hitting him.
Yeah. He almost single-handedly killed off a minute and a half long 2-man disadvantage. But yeah, they're playing really well. Hopefully, whoever the hell the backup is for Calgary, I don't even know off the top of my head. Hopefully, the Flyers get him tomorrow night, which would be nice.
I don't know. The Flyers are coming in hot. I don't know that this is a team that's gotten 4 out of possible 6 already. Took down Edmonton, who was playing on top of the world. They come out and beat Vancouver. 1 regulation loss in 6 games. They might not get the backup treatment. It really depends, I guess. We got another friend's comment. Oh, Fuzz.
Do they have an episode where they go to a hockey game? I'm sure they do.
Yeah, it's
they do.
First season. He gets hit in the face with a puck.
They do.
If that happened to come up behind you, that would just be unbelievable.
Over the top. See, you're going to get us flagged just for having that on in the background.
Yeah.
We're going to think it's about the intro video, and it's about your background.
There's going to be a fucking TikTok.
It's copyrighted content. Yeah. You know how many guys will act like they're playing a video game like you're doing, and they'll have a pay-per-view event on behind them?
Oh, yeah.
they're really looking for that kind of stuff. So it's going to be fun when this video is not accessible after it was live, or because Fuzz has got to have friends on in the background.
Yeah, so it's funny that you because that's how I watched the first Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather. There was music in the background, and I just streamed it to my phone to the TV.
Yeah,
I'm going to jail.
Dana White's going to show up at your door.
Yes.
But yeah, just taking money out of my kids' mouths, Chris.
No one has seen the last episode of Friends 843 times. But
you know what?
I'm going to watch it on the Tendies on Patterson podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah. You know what, Chris?
As long as they tune in.
See ya.
Yeah. So what's funny is that goal was Goudreau's first of the season last night.
It was, but he has 8 assists.
Oh yeah, I mean we're not. Listen, they're all off to. Everyone on the team's off to a good start.
Yeah,
they're like a plus 11 in differential and goals scored. There's just a lot of goals being scored. And
Markstrom bookended the road trip with shutouts. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. No, that's exactly where I was going.
But yeah, there's a lot of goals, but I think that this is like a little bit of a correction because we've gone through a few years where goals really hadn't been trending up. So we might just be one season catching it up to where it needs to go.
That's like, all right, no more goals.
Yeah. Well, teams that had like really good defensive discipline, it's not about goaltending. You know, it's about defensive discipline. Obviously, goaltending can be the cause of having, unnecessary goals, but so much of it is defensive discipline and structure. And right now, early in the season, teams just might not have it. And there's a lot of penalties being called. There's a lot. I mean, look at it. Like against Florida, Flyers were on a kill, 8 times? There were 8 penalties called last night against Vancouver, 4 apiece. There's just a lot of arms in the air right now. Teams have got to clean it up. I think that part of it, again, is you're dealing with a year and a half of not playing the same kind of game. And the game is being played a little bit more physical right now. I think everybody looked at the playoffs over the last couple of years and said you need to be a heavy physical team to compete when it gets late in the season. And they're playing a more heavy physical game. So there's more penalties. Therefore, there's more power play goals.
So look at your cup winners. St. Louis was a big, heavy team, and Tampa had to get some nastiness and some heaviness in order to get over the top.
So Montreal, not exactly a light team, and now that Weber isn't playing, but not exactly the lightest back there on the back end. They're not playing a small defensive style.
We'll finish up with the awfulness in the NHL, but
only because I wanted to bring it up because it was just because you had just brought up that Florida game. But when you sit there and you look at the game, and I think it was either one of us shared the GIF of Ric Flair just continually falling. Yeah, that's what it felt like. I was like
a soccer game,
like holding this, come on, dude, get up. Stop. I've seen worse, not cold.
The penalty that Lawton drew last night where he kind of just made contact and then went spinning like a top on the ice. We'll fucking take it. But
but they drew that Lindblom penalty was pretty bad too,
Yeah, but he got the free hand on him. I mean, it's ticky-tacky, but
it was a makeup call. But I guess my point being is it's just kind of the way it's going right now. A lot of penalties being called.
Yeah, it's early season hockey. It's what happens.
Yeah, no, you're right. I feel like that dude who was it? Quinn Hughes. He was getting called for penalty after penalty. Then I guess he calmed down because he ended up scoring. But he scored in the first period, and then
they were blatant. Like the one where Coots, he clearly grabs him. I mean, Coots helped it, but he for no reason at all grabs him. It wasn't helping you at all. What the hell are you doing?
The announcers were like, that really could have went either way.
Yeah,
that's because Quinn Hughes is someone that they want to be a defensive star. That whole family. There's a lot of marketing machine behind.
Yeah,
makes sense.
By the way, that Michigan team is filthy. They're just so.
They're disgusting. Disgusting.
I watched a little bit of the game against Wisconsin, and Wisconsin goalie, his name was Mo, which is kind of cool. But
Sislak?
I think he's going to buy a tavern when he gets older. But anyway, he was like standing on his head. But like
he was Kid Gorgeous, then Kid Presentable, then just Kid. Sorry, that's a very Inside Simpsons reference.
Yeah.
Go on, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Yeah. Well,
Did I derail you?
Yeah, like I don't even know what the hell you goddamn talking about. The defensive additions, like, yeah, I mean, like Risto has his warts. Like, Risto's gonna have his dumb. He said he's taken a couple dumb penalties so far. He had that dumb play in the Florida game where he dumped the puck and like didn't even look, or not the Florida game, the Boston game where he didn't even look, and it led to the Hall breakaway goal. But what he gives you, being an absolute warrior, like his visor exploded. He had that huge gouge over his eye.
How did that not go in his eye?
What's that?
How did visor?
I don't think the puck cut him. I think it was the visor.
The plastic. So
it was definitely the plastic.
The material that's made out of, Chris, it's made not to like shatter. Like chunks might come off, but it doesn't shatter like you would expect, like because it's not glass. That stuff is very strong material. As someone who has caught some sticks to the visor in the past.
That was just he came back and that's
he missed what 7 minutes in the third period, something like that. And it was
he probably just getting stitched.
Yeah, he was just waiting for stitches, and he was an absolute warrior. Blocking shots, laying his body in line, and blowing people up. Like that's something he didn't have last year. It's the whole reason he went and got him. Like, was Ghost giving you that? No, he was going to walk looking like a Bantam B defenseman. Like I told you in that St. Louis game. Like swear to God, I've seen Bantam B defensemen get walked. Not quite as bad as that.
It was a nice men's league defensive play, right? Like
spinorama, lose your feet. Yeah.
To the point that you're making, Paul, with his size, and then I'll tell you what I was meaning in my Simpsons reference. But it goes back to what I was saying with losing battles in corners. When you've got a guy who can just basically wipe out the attacking forward, you're more likely to win the battle and possibly find the other defenseman behind the net to start the breakout. Right. So on the other hand, Mo Sislak, right? You said he might open a tavern. Mo Sislak in The Simpsons was a boxer. And, so in the beginning, he came out as his original fight name was Kid Gorgeous. And then as he got older, he got more ugly. So then he became Kid Presentable and then just Kid as he got more, So anyway, that's what I was getting at.
Nice.
It's never good when you have to explain a joke. But there we are. If you're that big, huge Simpsons nerd when I was in high school. So anyway,
and then Yandel has been awesome. Like he even against Edmonton and Vancouver, two teams that are fast and very good offensively, he hasn't gotten exposed. And even on the road where AV can't control the matchups as much, he hasn't looked bad, and the power plays look good. And I just like I like the movement on the power play. When you move so much, it's less likely to get stale. My wife will tell you how bad of a storyteller I am, but like I just like all the movement and like shit we haven't seen in forever. And it's refreshing to see. So Risto's been a good improvement. Yandel has. We've already talked about Sealer, and Ellis in the first few games was very good, was as advertised, and I think he'll only get better once he comes back and becomes more acclimated in the system with the team. So,
Brassard has been playing not just full, offensive hockey. He's not as good as Kevin Hayes in the defensive zone, but he's been fine.
Yeah, and. But defensively, yes, it also has helped hard. I mean, they're clearing rebounds, but and they're not getting beat. They're not giving up 3-on-1s and all these 2-on-1s. So that's been a huge plus. But Hart himself is fixed. Like the offseason did him well, and he's fixed himself along with the worst goalie coach in the NHL, Coach Dillaball.
Probably should be fired.
Yeah, should definitely be fired. So Yeah, it's helped out a lot so far. Everything Chuck has done, knock on wood, has done well. So, um, I don't see how anyone can have a negative thought in their head right now.
If you do, then that's just who you are, right? Like,
Yep.
there's nothing that you should have seen on the ice, even during some of these sketchy second periods, that should have you anything less than excited. Obviously, it's very early. We're not going to sit here and talk about how they're going to go 81-1, but not, and they're going to have a stretch, right? They're going to have a stretch probably where they're going to lose some games in a row.
Yep.
We can't be silly about that happening, and how they respond to that will really be it. But the thing is we have been so conditioned, because they've been this every other year good, every other year not good, that like they usually start seasons off slow, and then they're battling in the last couple weeks to do anything. Even, like they go on that 10-game winning streak in 19, where they were the hottest team in hockey. They were kind of ho-hum a little bit before that, then they got hot, and they were hot at the right time. Just the season ended, it went to a pause. But we've been so conditioned to starting slow and to be battling kind of for points in a very tough division. Like, you're going to need 95 plus points probably to make the playoffs in the Metro.
6-0 or 7-0 now.
Yeah, they're undefeated. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough division. Rangers are
probably the best division in hockey.
Yeah, I don't know. The Central's really
Central's really good too, but there's an argument to be made.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, the Penguins without their superstars have played really well. The Devils have been good. I'm trying to think who the hell else is in the goddamn Metro. I'm like spacing. Islanders are good. Caps have been good. No team in our division has been bad.
No, it's you can't. So I guess my point is like, you're going to need most likely more than 95 points.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm being crazy saying that. So like, in the early part of the season where teams are trying to find their identity, to start banking points is not a bad thing. And
just like in games, and that's been a key to their success so far, is you don't want to be chasing games. And they haven't been chasing games. They've been getting up early and finishing games late. They have, like we talked about, they just have to fix that filler. But for the season, like, you don't want to be chasing teams. You want to be right there. And then once we start playing a lot of divisional games, then you start taking care of business.
Yeah. I mean, but back to your point, if you're not happy or excited about what you've seen, well, then there's nothing that's going to get you happy and excited, right? There's just some people that are just going to be negative no matter what.
No, it reminds me a lot of after the third conference championship game lost by Andy Reid's Eagles. Like, the regular season was like, man, like, no, it almost felt like it was meaningless, because it didn't matter until you got to the championship game, and then you had to do it in the playoffs. And that sucks. Like, that, I mean, like, that really sucks, because you want to be able to enjoy the regular season. And like, this is the good year. This is the playoff year.
Should be the playoff year. Yeah, this should be the playoff year. And look, hopefully they've turned that corner, right? Like, that's what really we're waiting for. This team right now, as it's built today, we don't know what's going to happen 10 games down the season. I think it's healthy to look at look at the season in 10-game chunks. Yep. And right now you're about a little over halfway in your 60% into a 10-game chunk. You're on a positive end there, but I think that, like, as those chunks start coming off, I think that this team, it's just built different than what we've seen. They have speed, they have physicality, they can score, they can stop goals. This team looks like, as far as the way they're constructed, looks different than what we've seen in the every other year decade that we've been in.
No, and you're right. And, a big thing is their goal scoring. In 4 games, they scored 4.
It's all right, Chris. First week back, bad internet connection, slipping.
Oh man, that's a tough look too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, offensively, a lot of your question marks have gotten answered too. Like, is TK going to get back to being TK? Well, TK's back. Is Farabee going to, get back to doing what he did last year? He is. Is Atkinson going to be,
The same exact thing as Jake?
Jake 2.0? No, he ain't. He's Cam, and he's motivated. He's G, being on a contract here. He's good. And Coots is Coots. So, like, your top six is doing your job. Like, I mean, they all pretty much are. I just want it to continue. I just don't want any.
So
no downturns.
Yeah, did I freeze when I was saying it, or did you hear me?
You froze.
Popsicle.
All right. So what I was saying is 13 times last year they scored four goals or more. We're only 6 games in, and they've done it 4 times.
Yep.
So for them to scoring up, and they're 3-1 in the games they score 4 goals or more, and one of them was a comeback game against Vancouver, the first game of the season.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they're doing it without sacrificing defense, unlike last year.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that like basically the average game last year, like the winning team scored like 3 goals. So if you scored 4, you pretty much won. I mean, obviously there's going to be outliers there, but I think that we talked about 3.5 goals last year. So like the reality is when you score 4 goals, you should win a game.
Where you watch the Rangers score 9 straight goals.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it was 14. Ross, we're not talking about like when Hayes comes back. We're not even going to bring that up right now.
So I mean, I think it's fair to say what we'll say here and is more or less we expect Hayes to start in the bottom 6, as long as his line stays. What would have been his line stays playing that they are. He's got a condition. Like it would be better to get your legs back under you in the bottom 6. It also, what an advantage having Kevin Hayes in the bottom 6. We talk about Lawton being in the bottom 6 being an advantage. Kevin Hayes in the bottom 6 is a ridiculous advantage.
If your third line is, let's just say they don't move Lawton down. Let's say your third line is, even though they would, because it doesn't make sense, but if your third line is Hayes, Oscar, and JVR, like it's a really good third line. And your fourth line is Lawton with McEwen and Nate. Like, I mean, that's really good. It's total mismatches.
That's what you want, is to bludgeon teams with depth. You don't have a Bergeron or Pasternak. You don't have a McDavid. You don't have a player like that. And then they've got a lot of really good players, but you don't have that type of player. So when you play teams like that, having that scoring come from the bottom is where you win.
Yeah.
What are you checking out what Chris is in the background? Looks like someone's chicken nuggets or wings. Yeah.
Someone gets
Burger King nuggets. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting as a lot of things come back online because there's also Wade Allison, who would be rejoining the team most likely. But he might need an AHL conditioning.
He'll need an AHL stint.
Yeah. But nonetheless, again, a very good talent, a mismatched player in the bottom 6, especially the bottom 3 that you'd really like to have there. And like it takes – we got Albe Kubel got a rest night, but it was well overdue, too many penalties for that player. So you got Brown in, and he had a very good game. It's good to have depth. It's a good problem to have.
It's good to have those initials too. But but yeah, it's it's all positives right now, and it's nice to see because last year was just so taxing to watch. It was so painful. We deserve this shit. Do we venture into the bad parts of hockey?
I feel like you have to. I mean,
yeah,
it's a disgrace. Like it's
yeah. So between when we were last on and when we were on today, a lot of information has come out of Chicago, and there has been fallout from other places based on who has moved on from Chicago in the last 10 years. really anybody who touched that in the way that they did should not be in hockey.
And did I because I've been working? Did anything come out about Shovel Day Off? Did he? He had his meeting today with Bettman.
Nothing had happened before we had gone on, but I don't have my phone up. So Coach Q, obviously, if you hadn't seen the news, if you're under a rock, resigned. I believe that's one of those forced resignations, but nonetheless, he resigned. Chose to go to Florida instead of here. You know what? I'm really glad with the way that worked out, right?
I'm 100% agreement with you. I wanted Joel. I love being wrong. Like, I will always admit to being wrong if I'm wrong. God, I couldn't imagine it. I really couldn't. And I think Taze and Kane, they dropped the ball. They absolutely dropped the ball.
Look, it doesn't take much to say something to the effect of I didn't know what was going on, and I don't know that part of the decision making, and it just sounds like a bad situation all around. And and somehow you mess that up, somehow you mess up that messaging. I don't know how. I wonder if that meeting today, he's going to actually force the NHL to do something, because the NHL basically said Quenneville resigned, and so we're not giving out a punishment. But if he decides to rejoin the NHL, then we'll figure out what the punishment will be. And so I can't imagine nothing's going to come of it.
Yeah, I mean, you swept it under the rug, and this guy went to Miami of Ohio, and did the same thing. The two, like how do you as a human being look at yourself and be just look at yourself in the mirror, and you're okay with looking at yourself in the mirror?
Shovel Day Off is not losing his job. He's staying put.
Has the NHL decided what the punishment's going to be, though?
Well, 5 hours ago, the Jets released a statement. This is from Shovel Day Off. First and most importantly, I want to express my support of and empathy for Kyle Beach and all he has had to endure since 2010. He was incredibly brave coming forward to tell his story. We can all use his courage as inspiration to do a better job of making hockey a safer place, a safer space for anyone who wants to play the game. Further, I want to express my gratitude to the National Hockey League for the opportunity to meet with Commissioner Gary Bettman in person, directly share my role and recollection of events while I was assistant GM of the Chicago Blackhawks in 2010.
Yeah, but here, so they let this guy go. Assaults two college students, goes to high school, assaults another one, and then Aldrich doesn't comply with the Chicago police. Like, what else do we need to see? What else does the NHL need to see?
There's nothing, there's nothing. So the reality is like not just that those things happen, but at the time that they receive the complaint, they decide hockey wins are more important than a video coach. This, this was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer.
At the end of the day, you're like, it's not acceptable for anyone. So like, the exception shouldn't be made for anyone.
No, but
you're freaking video coach. Like,
go get an intern.
That's not
fire him.
That's not preventing you from winning the Stanley Cup. Like, it's not.
No, and they let the guy, when the accusation sat out there, they knew it was true. Because they got rid of him right after. They knew it happened.
But they allowed him to go to high school with the cup, though.
They allowed him to go to high school with the cup. They allowed him to celebrate with the team. They allowed his name to be etched on the cup. They did a lot of things knowing what this man did. And they made a lot of choices. This didn't have to be a snap choice. They could have got the complaint, went to the police with it, said, "You guys handle it. We got the complaint," and let that get solved. Right? Yep. They didn't. They didn't.
It's the same thing with Penn State. Just send it over to the police. Don't bury it.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer, and they made decisions based on just being not a no-brainer. Like it was a no-brainer, and they made a lot of choices after that came out that unfortunately, for that, like, fortunately for us that we know, right? Unfortunately for for those guys, those choices they made that for whatever reason they thought that they were in the best decision of themselves, that's going to walk with them forever. They've got to live with it, but they made those choices. They should have to live with it.
And by the way, how bad does Kane and Taves look by coming out and like defending like Stan Bowman, like to a certain extent, like you can't back him up. And also like it's come out like why am I spacing on the defenseman's name?
Duncan Keith?
No.
Seabrook?
No. Shit, I can't think of the my brain's saying Adrian Coin, but it's not a coin. He wore number 5 for them. I can't remember his name. But he came out and said that no, Seabrook wore 7. He came out and said that the entire team knew, and this was before the report came out and everything. Like this is, months ago, and like, come on, like there were players in the team making comments, like just come out and say, like
number 5 was Brent Sopel.
Brent Sopel, yes, okay. Brent Sopel. It's a Brent.
I knew it was a Brent.
Yeah, and Brent. But like
Seabrook's the one that came to my mind.
Just like just come out and just say, hey, like, I eventually found out about it. I wasn't sure about it. Like looking back on it, I also failed him. I should have done more, et cetera, et cetera. But to come out and say that they knew nothing and never knew nothing, like never knew anything about it, like it's gonna come, like it's like all this stuff is coming out. Like they just get in front of it and just say, because at the end of the day, it's not their fault.
No,
like they don't know exactly how true it is. Now, granted, what could be their fault is if they participated in the shaming and name calling of Beach, then yeah, they're gonna look really, really, really
bad.
And
that's where, like as a player, I it never happens on the ice, but when you sit there and you hear the comments and what Kane and Taze said, and just not even condemning it, and as a human being, like I'm getting angry. I just want to punch them both in their face. And you got to figure it.
Come on, Chris. You were in the middle of something here. You got it back? Yeah. Okay.
You muted me.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't have Chris off the handle here.
Every time Chris goes to make a point, mute or freeze.
But point being is it doesn't take, in these situations, it doesn't take that much to be on the right side. It just takes some basic human decency and thought. And when people foul at that, it's disappointing, and again, like what we talked about this offline, what I had said is like, if someone comes forward, this isn't like a he said, she said, this is a very serious allegation. It doesn't take much to just go, you know what? I'm not equipped to deal with this. I'm going to let the authorities deal with it, and that's it. And as a person, as a man, as a coach, as a captain, as an assistant captain, you go, look, that was put in the hands of the authorities. We're going to let it play out. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. It doesn't take much to do that. But to voice support when it seems like it's pretty clear that these people made very real decisions about what was in their best interest, not what was in the best interest of a victim, which was just report it. Because now you've opened up a whole new slate of victims and a whole new Pandora's box about what your responsibility is. Because if this would have went to the authorities, this guy wouldn't have been able to go to a high school to be affiliated with those kind of accusations around him.
Yeah, it was three people. Before I got cut off, I just want an NHL player out there. You're listening. Just cross-check them in the face. We'll start a GoFundMe. We'll pay for your fine.
Yeah, it's just like at no point do I blame the players. Like, and there's nothing wrong with coming out and saying that that, looking back, that he probably should have. Because I think about like my college team, and at the time, they were not much older than the kids that I coach. We've had guys that have been 26, years old. Like that's not their job. Their job, is not to handle that. So, I wouldn't expect them to handle it. As a coach, as someone running an organization, it's my job to do it. So, I don't expect them to do it. But at the same time, if you were involved, I'd expect them to think back about it, maybe, especially as
They were young players,
a star player in the team. Maybe I could have went to Coach Q or Stan and said, what's the deal with this? I heard these rumors, something like there's nothing wrong with saying that, I could have handled it a little differently, but that doesn't make him a bad person.
Oh no,
They didn't hide anything.
So it makes the general manager a bad person, right?
And Q,
and Q doesn't. Ooh,
and
that's a bad
also
look.
we can't let the NHLPA and the NHL off the hook, and as well as Safe Sport with USA Hockey. Apparently they said that they concluded investigations. Now this is coming from Kyle Beach, but I feel that we should just trust him. That that they didn't find anything with their investigation, which is
what are they doing? DNA tests?
Yeah, it's just there's so many people so wrong with this. This shit just can't happen again.
No, it can't. It can't. And I just don't know. As someone who is in leadership roles and in charge of young people and employees, I couldn't imagine getting a report of an assault and going, you know what? I'm not going to give this to the cops. I just can't imagine making that decision. It's at some point you're as a general manager or as the union, your player safety matters.
Yep.
So this meeting was held on May 23rd, 2010, and it was with executives. For me, hearing the story, I want to know what executives were in there. I want them all fired or charges pressed. Something like this never happens again. I know you can't do it. Maybe strip them of something from that season. I know you can't strip them.
Strip them in the sea. Oh.
But something.
No, if the 2010 Flyers are now the Stanley Cup champions.
Yes, I've been waiting for someone to say that. When do we get our parade?
Of course,
bring Pronger back. Give him his cup.
Hey, we'll get. This is someone will probably give me shit for this, but we'll probably get more people than the Chicago Sky got for their parade.
So, but a $2 million fine, that to me, that's not enough.
No, some picks got to go or something.
Some picks got to go. The owner, if the owner knew, you got to force him to sell or do something. There has to be more to it than just draft picks and fined. The Houston Astros got fined $5 million for cheating, which for me, steal signing has been going on forever in sports. But they got fined $5 million and stripped of draft picks, and managers were fired. $2 million and nothing else, and coach
clearly banging on trash cans is worse.
And that's what I get, and that's what boggles my mind. All because they won the Stanley Cup. And when you look at it, May 23rd, so that was almost the end.
Before the Stanley Cup
final
started. Yeah.
Right.
Wait.
No, it was right before the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So it was either in the ECF and the WCF, because I forget when the Flyers won.
They were getting ready to play for the
Memorial
Cup.
Day weekend. Because Game 1 was Memorial Day weekend, because that was the night of Roy Halladay's
They knew they were going. When this came out, they knew they were going to the Cup. The conference final was over. They knew they were going to play the Cup.
Above everything. And you still would have won. I mean, you would assume they still would have won.
They were playing against Michael Layton.
And he didn't. And, the kid didn't even play for the team.
Yeah, but it coming out wouldn't have been a difference between winning and losing. That's the point, right? It wouldn't.
Video coach. It's not like it's. And again, not saying that this is the reason why you should, but it's it makes it all that much more dumbfounding why you would protect him. He's the freaking video coach. He wasn't in the M. He wasn't your starting goalie. He wasn't, Duncan Keith, who, by the way, Duncan Keith is probably so happy he's in Edmonton. It's like, besides all this stuff, like the Hawks are an absolute disaster on the ice.
Hey, but they got 3 Stanley Cups, and now they have this guy over their head. Like now, people are going to look at the Blackhawks' first Stanley Cup, and how many years was it? Like 50 for them when they won.
A long time ago.
So now this sexual allegation. This guy committed sexual assault 4 times and got 9 months in jail. Again, that's a disgrace. Like it's like
it could have been. It's a disgrace. It could have been stopped. It could. That's really the crux of all this, right? It happens. The guy, like, they might not have known that this guy was a danger before that happened. They may not have known before it happened. But once it happens, and you, as an organization, this wasn't a one person going rogue making this decision. They met. The upward management of that franchise met and made a decision as a group. One of them could have been a whistleblower and been like, you know what? I don't like the decision they made. I'm going to the police on my own. That could have happened, but they all made a decision and they all stuck with it. That's the bed they made. That's the bed that leadership should have to lie in. They should carry it everywhere they go. And
after 11 years, almost 11 years, that it never leaked at all.
You know what it took for it to begin leaking was the high schoolers lawsuit.
Yeah.
It was the high schoolers lawsuit. Because I remember when that started coming out last year is when it, the things started coming at the draft is when things started coming out about this was a former Blackhawks employee and that, like how are the Blackhawks liable? And then it slowly started coming out that there was more to that story than just a high school employee. And that leadership group all met, decided to do it. They should have to carry it with them forever, and they should not be allowed to work in any form on any level of hockey or any level of sport, really, based on that lack of judgment and candor. How can you be responsible for the life and well-being of people when you made that choice?
Yep.
You can't. You can't be.
Yep.
That's my soapbox.
No different than being the getaway car driver for a bank robbery.
It was reported the day they won the Western Conference Finals. First game was May 29th.
Yeah, they knew they were playing in the Cup. They knew they were playing in the Cup.
So that means
it's a disgrace.
They saw that they were up all those games, with the Stanley Cup Finals approaching.
It's not even that, though. They let the guy, after the allegation, they could have sent him home on paid leave, and nobody would have known. They let him, and not that would have been better. They let him come celebrate. They let him go have his day with the Cup.
His name's on the
basically
cup.
Continued to embrace him as a member of their organization. And Kyle Beach was in exile.
And also gave him a recommendation for his next job, which led to the kids getting assaulted.
See, I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
I'd fight every single one of them. I'd hit them all with a hockey stick.
They all really don't deserve to be in the game. They forfeited their right to be in the game or attached to the game. It's gross.
I would just strip the Stanley Cup. Nobody won the Stanley Cup that year.
Well, I mean, they have to.
Again, it's not the players' fault.
No, I know.
No, but they had the franchise itself has to exact some level of has to have some level of punishment exacted. To hear the owner of the Blackhawks say, "Well, now we want the guy's name removed from the Cup." Where was that 10 years ago? Where was that 10 years ago?
Where was it 2 years? Where was it 2 years later when he had the 2 more allegations? It happened 2 years later, and then the third one happened when he went to high school. Where was it then?
They didn't give a shit. That's where it was, and that's the outrageous thing. That's the outrageous thing. Is it wouldn't have taken much to just say the police should handle this, and it wouldn't have taken much for one member who kept a tight lip, as you said, Chris, Paul, nothing leaked out, for them to just go, you know what? Nobody needs to know it came from me. I'm going to make an anonymous tip. Not one person had the morality, had the guts to do what was right because they were so worried about hockey.
Doesn't take much. I can't believe Cheveldayoff still has his job.
The NHL can't. What are? Then they shouldn't be able to suspend a player ever. I mean, how can you suspend a player for substance abuse or for gambling? Or how can you?
I'm surprised Evander Kane isn't going back in the league for this.
We're waiting to see this play out, but if I was Evander Kane, I would.
I mean, it doesn't.
I don't think
it doesn't make what he did right.
No, but it is about a standard.
Yeah.
It is about a standard of what punishment the league exacts, and that's that you can't have because you wear a suit versus you lace up skates.
So now
the standard to be that different.
Just to try to bring this back to being is the Department of Player Safety, are they going to be making a video about this?
So right, so I know we're getting close to ending. Like I said yesterday in a text message, it amazes me that we're in 2021 and the NHL has to send a memo out to the general managers and the owners of the team to not be a piece of shit. I don't understand how. Explain it to me.
We live in a climate.
As Michael Scott would say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
It doesn't make sense because we live in a world where everybody's familiar with what happened at Penn State. Everybody's familiar with what happened with the Catholic Church, right? There are examples. We don't need these professional adults to have it explained to them what is acceptable or not from an employee.
I'm the biggest piece of shit you know, and I know this is wrong.
It doesn't take much to know sexual assault is wrong. It just doesn't. So, and part of Department of Player Safety, what a joke, right? What a joke.
And it just, and now think of the damage that this guy has caused. Last night I did a show on mental illness. Now 4 people who are going to have PTSD and the mental illness and everything with it, like stuff that could have been stopped. God forbid these kids go out and do something to harm themselves.
Mental illness, suicidal tendencies, substance abuse, always tied to being a sexual abuse survivor.
You literally put wins over
above the safety of high school students. What else is there to say? It's not even just tied to Kyle Beach, right? There's continued ripples that happened where more people got hurt. When he would not have got hired at a high school, even if nothing came from the beach. If the police said this is unsubstantiated, that complaint alone would have flagged him for not being able to work with high school students. It didn't take much. They kept a tight lip for 10 years for no reason other than to cover up their cover-up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, anyway, on that heavy subject, we got the Flames coming up. Tough team playing really well, but the last game they head back home after the Flames game, correct?
5-3 win.
5-3.
Another 5-3 win, huh? Yeah, they got. Oh, you said why can't they play Arizona? Well, they got Arizona on Tuesday night. I'm sure attendance is going to be just awesome. For
so they don't come home after Calgary, but then they go back out to Arizona, or they have Arizona at home.
Arizona at home, then at Pittsburgh.
Okay. Pittsburgh's their first Metro.
They're going to go. They're going to embarrass Calgary. They're going to shut them out 5-0, and then lose 6-3 to Arizona.
But then they're going to beat Pittsburgh and Washington on the road.
2-1.
Yeah, Hart's going to have a busy week. I'm sure he's playing tomorrow. I'm sure Jones is getting Arizona, and I'm sure. I mean, Hart might play.
Pittsburgh and Washington.
All right, gents, I got to head out.
All right, see you, Chris.
What a shock.
Great show. I know.
But then they got so Pittsburgh, Washington with a day between. Then they have a 3-day break. Then they host Toronto. And then they're at Carolina. So after the Arizona game, Hart will probably play the next 4. And then Jones are in Dallas the day after they play at Carolina. So Jones will probably
going to get that start. I would imagine.
So
you want Hart 2 Metro matchups.
these next 4 games, like, you know,
that's the end of that 10-game chunk, right? Like we were talking about it. I think it's healthy to look at the season as kind of 8.2 sections. And that's the end of their first 10.
well, Washington would be, yeah.
You know, and that's a good way to end it, right? You've played a whole different kind of level of talent. You have Seattle, you have Arizona, you've had Edmonton, who might be, at least at this point in the season,
Florida's one of the best teams in the NHL.
Florida's one of the best teams in the NHL. There are going to be other tests as you get past this first 10-game chunk, like the Islanders, that they won't have played in their first 10 games.
Well, actually, November, you start off with Arizona, but you have at Pitt, at Washington, home against Toronto, Carolina, Dallas, home against Calgary, home against Tampa, home against Boston, at Tampa, at Florida.
That's a tough
home
stretch.
Against Carolina, Devils, and you finish off with the Islanders, and then the Rangers on December 1st.
November's going to be a tough month.
That's a tough month. If they come out in November and they're looking good, this team's for real.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they're for real going to be pushing for a playoff spot. I think that's the expectation, right?
Just it's going to be. They could be looking real.
They could be looking like they're a top. They're not a wild card team, right? Yep. You know, like. But on that note, I'll do as I always do as we begin to wrap up our show. Obviously, we're on an off night today of Friday. Little scheduling conflict. I'll probably be on a scheduling conflict for the next couple weeks. But coming back Monday, football smack talk show, 6:00. I'm not going to mention the Diamond Club because it's off season. So Tuesday, Philly broadcast 6:30. Wednesday, Bald Eagle, 6 p.m. I guess they're going to be talking about farming and planting flowers. But also if you're into beers and you're not just want to talk about gardening, he does do a beer review. Mike Sports, Wednesday at 8. Next week, we're slotted on Thursday at 5:30. I hope that's when we are. I hope I don't have anything tying us up, but it's going to be tight for me going forward. And then Thursday night, 7:00 is Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, a wrestling podcast. Otherwise, we will be back next week.